Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, LinkedIn community. My name is Adam Conrad. I'm the founder and CXO of Great Recruiters. We are an experience management online reputation platform for the recruitment industry and recruiters. And today I am fired up because Alison Daley, who is the founder and CEO of Recruiting Innovation, is somebody that matches my energy level. So I'm fired up to have you on today. And how are you doing today, Alison?
Feeling good. It's been a weird 6 months, and I think we're all just sort of getting used to things being weird. So net positive. We'll just say that.
It's
Net
normal
positive.
now. Weird is the
Yeah,
new normal. I mean, that's just it.
that is
The
it.
unexpected is expected. Hey, for those who do not know who Alison is a 15-year vet in the recruitment industry. She focuses on really the intersection of technology, workforce development, reimagining recruiting models, really for the 21st century, which is why this is such a good fit, because I'm all about the maturity and modernization of the recruitment industry. It is not the same industry it was when I started 25 years ago, and I know the same for you. But also, Alison is the creator of Tech Recruiter Certification, really focused on certifying and training great IT recruiting professionals. But don't let me tell you everything about her. Alison, give us a little bit more.
Sure. Yes. I'm Alison Daley, founder and CEO of Recruiting Innovation. Like many people in the recruiting industry, at some point after college, I stepped on a banana peel and fell into recruiting. I've now fell into the recruiting industry 4 times and picked it 3 times. I've kind of done it all. I cut my teeth at Manpower. I was a corporate recruiter for Foot Locker Europe out of the Netherlands. I was part of a boutique UX recruitment firm. And then I was also at a high growth startup here in Denver. So kind of seen all the flavors of staffing and recruiting. And then I launched Recruiting Innovation about 6 years ago to really bring to market a technical toolkit that I had discovered in my years as a UX researcher, applied to the recruiters process to like really be the Rosetta Stone of how do we train recruiters about the industries they operate in. And now I'm like fully into the recruiting industry. I'm not going anywhere. I love this space. I just think the timing that we're in with this industry, with all the changes and all the, upheaval in a way, that it creates opportunity for us to really define how we want to work moving forward, and what does like strategic optimization look like, and how do we really leverage our talent internally to be the best that they can be, but then and therefore deliver the best for our organization. So totally obsessed with this industry, and I'm just so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, good. Well, I'm happy to have you. And I have to ask, other than slipping on the banana peel, what's the origin story? I always say I fell into this industry. I am a product of a technical reference turned into a recruiting call, turned into I got my first recruiting job. So how did you find yourself in this awesome industry?
Oh, well, I was back in Omaha in 2002. Happy to date myself. Graduated with just like a general bachelor's degree. I like to say I got a bachelor's in growing up. It was just like English and business. And then I had applied to, I literally think it was still a newspaper, Remedy Intelligence Staffing in Omaha. So all my Remedy folks out there, I had applied to an admin assistant role that they had posted. And so interviewed, and it turned out they were also hiring for themselves, and they really liked me. So I came in and I was the back office gal for a good 9 to 10 months, and was just like, this is a job. How cool. And I actually was, after working a year, I was like, I'm done with this work stuff. I want to go back to school. And so I got my MBA in London, and then just toward the end of the program, put my resume up on monster.co.uk and actually got recruited to be a finance recruiter for a Farlow and Warren search selection in London. And that was going well until the UK government declined my work visa because they determined that recruiting wasn't enough of a strategic role that it would justify an immigrant to get it, which makes me just wonder how many people have ever recruited, because that's how I always feel. It's like, oh, it's an easy job. Oh yeah, have you done it before? Oh
No.
yeah, you haven't. So anyway, quickly found my way back to the US, and then that's where Manpower kicked in, and the UX firm, and then Craftsy, which was the high growth startup. So it was kind of like I just it kind of just kept happening. And then, you know, how that builds. And it's, for some people, it's very common that we just have these accidental careers, right? And it just, one thing leads to another. But now I'm fully all in, and this is
Well,
where I want to be.
I don't think any of it's an accident. It's just
No.
a series of events that lead you probably where you're supposed to be. And so there's no doubt in my mind we're supposed to be right here today. And,
Amen.
you know, what surprises me is you talk about, like, I didn't know what recruiting was when I was in college, and I didn't really understand. I just thought of it as like recruiting for, you know, like the military or the army. And that's where I heard recruiting. And, you know, I love the training and development piece of it, because it surprises me with as large of an industry this is, with as critical of a role recruiters play in the lives of human beings, that there isn't more formalized training and development. I mean, we're really still the Wild West.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
you know, I think there's core components, but I think we're going to see more standardization, and it's going to be driven from, in my opinion, the experience that the talent pool is going to be demanding. And I think we see that with technology and innovation and how easy it is to access information. And it's really an exciting time. I'm really happy to be part of the industry as we kind of
Major.
watch it evolve. But we could probably talk about that forever. But today, what we're really going to be focusing on is, you've talked to a lot of clients, talked to a lot of companies. It seems like uncertain is the topic.
Yep.
It is an uncertain economy. It is uncertain times. People are uncertain of where things are going to land, and for a lot of people, it paralyzes them. And I think back to my experience in the 08, 09, and I think there's a lot of lessons that were learned through there of, like, it's not the time to be paralyzed. It's the time to focus. And today, would love to unpack really how you can take control of this situation, right? I mean, there's a lot of things out of our control. We're really talking about three key things to be able to take control of the situation we're in, double down on what's working. And I really think a lot of this is where the great leaders just need to stand up. And so take us away on this. You know, I think your first point you wanted to talk about is cut out what and who isn't working. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yes. And I'm sure that everyone in their own way, personally and professionally, has probably been doing this in some way in the last 6 to 12 months, if not even since COVID kicked in, right? Because it just feels like everything, the apple cart's been flipped over, and what are we going to do? And so exercises that I've been doing with my team, and I'm even, you know, talking through with clients as well, is, first of all, anything's easy when money's flowing, right? And that was like that crazy gold rush bonanza of the 2 years prior. You could throw money at any problem, right? And like, especially the whole build versus buy, that's not just a product term, it's also talent term. And so forever you could just buy all the talent that you wanted because you had cash flow pumping through you, and there's so much demand. And so you can be a little loosey goosey with, you know, your ops and your planning and your head count, because hey, just tap into the gold mine and more money will come, no problem. Right. But as soon as that starts welling up, it's like, you know, just like after Christmas and Thanksgiving, it's like, oh, I was eating so much, I need to like trim it down, right? And so it's like, what isn't serving you? Like basically what I would recommend, and what we've been doing on our side with our clients, is, you know, starting with like an audit of your organization. So kind of, you almost can put it into two columns, like what's causing drag? What is causing drag right now for us? What are expenses? What are processes? Maybe what are team members or strategies that we thought was going to work well? When we get sober and like look at our numbers, we have to be realistic. And so that could mean looking at your staff, right? So staffing is relatively so easy to see who's performing and who's not, right? It's a numbers game. Are you getting your placements? Are you getting your client calls? Are you doing your submittals? It's numbers. And so sometimes you just have to take the sort of heart out of it and just use the analytical nature of being a leader to say, you know, what isn't working. And so we've seen across the board, I think almost every staffing company leader I've talked to has quietly Some have quietly, some have a little bit more loudly had some layoffs. Most people are 10% down on their staff. Some people are up a little, even up to 20%. That matches that they're down 10 to 20% from their, their recs and their own pipeline. So that means, first of all, just trim off the low performers, right? This is an opportunity to let go of some of the weight that's not helping you move forward. It's not a fun part of the job, but also it's survival. And
Right.
if you've been in this business long enough, someone being let go shouldn't be a surprise to them, right? And if you're doing your job as a leader and you're doing your regular check-ins, no one should be surprised when they're let go. In my opinion, it's actually honestly a relief because it's not been a fit. They're trying hard. And so, you're doing people a favor in a way, even though it can feel hard in the moment, to release them to find something that they might be better at, especially considering your earlier point, Adam, like so much of this industry until recently has just been, unstructured and just give everyone a chance, right? And so it's like, well, naturally, you're going to have a 20 to 30% attrition in general. So that's one thing that we've been looking at. So that also includes, though, your processes, like how many tools are you using? Do you really need 3 job boards right now? Do you really need all these extra tools? Are the tools even working, right? Like, do you have things set up? So really making sure that this is kind of what's going to segue us up into the second part is, once you do trim what you clearly isn't working, now you need to sort of like center in and think, okay, well, now how do we optimize what we do have? How do we make the most of the technology we have? How do we make the most of the people that we have? How do we make the most with the clients that we have right now? Because as they say, never waste a good crisis, right? And also in marketing, sometimes like customer complaints turn into the biggest like customer wins. It's like actually a huge opportunity when you have an upset customer to like make their day. And now they're even more loyal than before the issue, right? And so doubling down to on, when you're, I'll pause because I'm just gonna like start rolling into my whole points. But coming back to you, Adam, what are your thoughts on trimming or optimization? Like, what are you seeing from the people that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the easy thing a leader can do is your biggest expense in staffing is obviously people. For
Yeah.
me, it's taking a step to ensure that we do have the tools and efficiencies in place to maximize the potential of each individual. And so before cutting people, I always went back to saying, are our processes right? Are their tools right? Are we providing the right training and guidance? When you look at a lot of firms that I talk to, it's the 80-20. You've got 20% of the people who are probably doing about 80% of the work. And so, how do I help the other people get to that level? How do I fill up their pipeline? How can I help do training and development, mentor programs, buddy programs? I'm one that probably would be, they say, be slow to hire, fast to fire. I'm probably fast to hire, give them a chance, invest a ton in them, and do what I can to help them realize their potential. Because then, I think you're right. When there isn't a good fit, it's an easier conversation. We know that both sides invested a lot to try to make it work, and sometimes it just doesn't. And that's easier said than done. When you talk to companies who might have taken a 50% cut. And so those are the tough things. But I really think that when it gets tough, and I think you nailed it, it's what worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today. And for me, I think one of the biggest things that I would focus on and what we focused on in '08 was our relationships. We want to make sure that we are nurturing those relationships, double down on taking care of those clients to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help support them because they're going through an equally difficult time as well. And so being able to partner to come together, I think is where you really get down and have the tough conversations that a lot of us are afraid to have sometimes because we don't want to have the answer. We don't want to hear no. We don't want to hear we're cutting back. But I think when you get down and have open communication and you seek to understand, then you're able to, I think, strengthen the relationships, but also maybe identify other areas of opportunity that you might not have been focused on when you were continuously just shooting fish in a barrel, right? And sometimes that's where I think the industry really needs to evolve, is to become more consultative,
Oh
less
yeah.
transactional. And when things slow down, transactional focus doesn't always work.
You're speaking my language, seriously, because, and also I love what you're saying is like, turn it back to the team, right? I think often as leaders, we're like Atlas, we got the whole world on our shoulders, but it's like, everyone on our team has ideas. Everyone on our team is in the market seeing new tools, doing ideas. But if maybe they don't feel that there's a channel for being like, hey, can we try this? Or I saw that. And creating that sort of feedback loop. That's how we really can, transitioning into optimizing on what works is like leaning on the folks that you do have and creating that open door scenario where it's, hey, it's a uncertain times, right? Anything's possible. Everything's on the table right now. Do you have any ideas on how we can get better, more efficient? Any tools that you've been wanting to try, things like that? And you'd be surprised how many people have ideas internally,
Yeah.
and especially just coming into like leveraging what you do have. I think our team can have a lot more to offer than sometimes we give them credit for, or even just like slow enough down to be like, oh, I should ask them their opinion too, because I'm sure we've all had those managers that just treated us like foot soldiers. I know I have multiple times in my career. And it's that sort of top down kind of old school way of management
Yeah.
that is what needs to go away. And so speaking of that on optimization, it's sort of like, okay, well, it's also an opportunity to look at the tools that we are using, and are they, especially these days with all the innovations, it's like, do all of our tools talk together? Are things automated? Like, how do we get the muck of the sort of, transactional parts of every single step has to get done? How do we streamline that and optimize that? And, speaking of that, I love everything about Great Recruiters, because what you're doing is fundamentally leveraging, the reputation of your recruiters to get more candidates or more business. And that's the thing, double down on who you have. I also love David Falwell and staffing referrals, right? Like, they're leveraging the networks of the recruit, like the candidates they have. So like, you have a lot of resources, but you hadn't had to tap into them yet because money was flowing. So allow yourself to be creative. And speaking of the doubling down on your folks, you touched on this too. Learning and development, like especially in our perch in the market where we're between like tech and staffing and workforce development. We've been seeing it even 18 months, 2 years ago. Like, there is a strong move, especially at the big organization level, away from buying talent into building talent. Walmart has incredible apprenticeships, boot camps, career pathways established. And I was speaking to one of the head of the sort of internal mobility, and it saves them millions of dollars a year to create pathways and careers for the folks they already have, right? And so maybe
Right.
thinking through ways of growing folks, coming back to don't treat your people like foot soldiers. If you have a great business recruiter or a marketing recruiter, but you're starting to pick up more, let's say, tech or healthcare roles, there is training out there to help them level up. Obviously, recruiting innovation right now, we're focused on software development and technical recruiting. I built this program to fill the need that I had experienced at literally every job I ever landed in, which is this endemic idea of sink or swim. Like, that's how we treat our new recruiters. Well, up until my day anyway, is like sink or swim, just go talk to some candidates and figure out what a front end engineer does. And it's like, how
Hire,
efficient is that?
hire 10 and hope that maybe one or two works out.
Yeah.
It's definitely the easy way. And I think that, as you talk about this and the training and development, why is it important? And I was an IT recruiter, and I know the biggest turnoff that I could provide, and I think any recruiter can provide, is talking to a professional and really not having a good understanding of what that professional does. And my day started with my first day was a stack of resumes and a job order for a PLC's engineer, and I remember thinking to myself, what value am I bringing anyone? And they're like, well, just call and ask if they have these skill sets. And I realized I provided zero value in that. I ended up getting the placement, but there was no value, and there was nothing I did. And with all the people I talked to, I never even had in the back of my mind of build relationships. And I think that goes from this is where the industry, not just today, I think needs to go. We're about helping to empower workforces and help those organizations enable workforces to accomplish those business goals. And it's going beyond filling jobs to solving problems. And if you're looked at as just a job filler, then when times get tough and organizations are looking for somebody to help them, you're not going to be part of that conversation. And you need to have better conversations and be more consultative. And I think that goes against the grain of where the industry has historically been. But the companies that I talk to that are thriving today are doing more around that. I just talked to a company today. Hey, direct hires down. We're focused on more on contract, and how do we bundle that contract and make it easier for the organizations. But it comes through the relationships that they have with those clients that enable them to do it, rather than just saying, we don't have any orders for you to fill. You need to take that conversation to a deeper level, because they're experiencing challenge and uncertainty as well.
Oh yeah. And then exactly, right? Because as a recruiter, at the beginning of the state, you're like a little order taker. You're like at the deli, oh, a turkey sandwich. Oh, okay, some cheese. Okay. Oh, that's all you can do. You're surface level with the client. It means you're surface level with the candidate, and you're transactional. You don't stand out in any way. If anything, you're just reinforcing the reputation that staffing and recruiting in general is expendable. Whereas on the flip side, when you have, and this is my soapbox, trained, sophisticated recruiters are a strategic asset to any organization. Full stop. Every industry recruits, every company recruits. So put some respect on the title, put some respect on your own shoulders, straighten your backbone, right? That's I just look at my own evolution as a recruiter, just being oh, I'm just, I'm here to support everyone. And it's actually, your people need you to lead. They need you to lead them. They need you to come in with market data. Hey, this is what we're seeing. I know you asked for this. I just totally did 3 days of searching. This is what I keep coming back with. That's valuable. That's useful. And it's one part on us, right? We need to have better skills. We need to have the technical acumen. We need to know that Java is not short for JavaScript. We need to be able to push back on those hiring managers that are just giving you that regurgitated job description they've copy and pasted for the last 7 years, and be hey, let's kind of let me help you write this correctly. Let me help you position this correctly. Let me add value, because I'm the hiring expert. You are not. This is where I add value. So it comes from us sort of, standing with some straight back and kind of demanding a little bit more, that we have the respect and the leadership, because we can give more. And then on the flip side, when you portray that, you get noticed, right? Because it's so noisy out there. And that was the experience I had. It was just you blend in with everybody until you stand out, right? And that's why I also love the great recruiters, because then you have a reference right there in the signature of your email. Sure. I'm a person that takes my craft seriously. I'm not going to waste your time. Same with our certification. You can put the tech recruiter certification or the IT account manager certification in your email. It's just a visual, a signal of I'm different from everyone else. Give me a call back. But it's so we have to have the confidence ourselves, but then we also have to, as an organization and as an industry, move away from that transactional space and go with, how do we add value? How can I help? We're in this together, right? We're a team, even though we're external or what have you. And that's what sets us apart in the market for sure right now, is those deeper relationships. And then guess what? When you deliver good add value experiences to your candidate, especially in tech, well, now it's a little bit inverted, but they'll send their friends to you, right? It's not that hard to find talent doesn't want relationships with recruiters. They just feel sometimes they have to throw that baby out with the bathwater. I'm in a job. I'm cool. Right. Why would I take time out of my day unless I know that you have something that actually fits and is a step forward for me? How do you add value to my life? And that's sort of how we should frame, how are we going to add value in this call? How am I going to add value to this client? And let that be your sort of mantra in this difficult time of, in Colorado, especially in the entrepreneur scene, we have a whole give first mentality. How can you just give? Just give. And it is so clear. And one more point on that, in our tech recruiting tactics course, which is sort of our recruiting 101 class. When I have a class, I teach on the job descriptions and the outreach messages. And one of the points that I make is that when you're newer or you're still writing that surface level of what your job is as a recruiter or an account manager,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to have a really unconscious like push energy, like I've got this need to fit, like this need, do you fill it? Versus like having a pull energy, which is like, hey, I think this is a great fit. This is why this company is great. This is how your skills would be leveraged. Like this could be really good. And it's sort of like bring them with you. Or same with the clients, right? Are you shoving your needs onto them? Or are you pulling them in with like, being able to offer them something that they don't already have?
I always told our recruiters, put their agenda ahead of your own.
Oh yeah. They are the hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We are the guides. They are the hero, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we make deposits before we take withdrawals?
Oh, I love that.
And when you talk about the relationship, some of my best referral sources were a result of people I never successfully placed. I just took the time to help them and understand. And I love what you said, because I say it all the time. I say it to my head of customer success: add value every day, add value in every conversation. You might not have the right job. The job might not be the value you're providing in that moment, but you can find ways. And the great recruiters try to find value. And it might be the competition down the street might be able to better help you. It might be helping to redesign a resume or giving some other areas of suggestions of where they could help. If you can't help them by putting a butt in seat, doesn't mean you can't provide value. And, I think this goes into just to kind of summarize, cut out what and who isn't working. I mean, when you're shooting fish in a barrel and business is that good, like you said, you can forget about these things very easily. And it takes a concentration to focus on doing those things. And you should be doing those during the good times and the bad. But certainly if you weren't doing it during the good times and you're that recruiter that might be listening, that's like, man, this is really tough. Start doing it today. Build every relationship. Your network should become your job board, right? New recruiters should depend on job boards. Experienced recruiters are relying on their own personal networks, their own experiences, their ability to get referrals from people they've helped. But what I'm hearing is like, it's look at the data, figure out what's working and what's not. Where is the shift? Where are the gaps of opportunity? And then we talk about doubling down on what's working. I talk about doubling down on the relationships, but when you think about what do you see in your clients doubling down on? They've made those cuts, they've done those things. What are the things that you're finding they're working, that they're doing more of today?
Well, it's interesting. Like we're like most recruiting related companies, we're riding the market as well. But it's interesting because I've had actually clients come in that I hadn't worked with yet that just had to do a reduction in workforce. And they said, we slightly low morale naturally, but we want to show the people that we do have that we're investing in them and that we're committed to them. And so we've actually been staying steady with our sales of our tech recruiter certification and our IT account manager certification. And it's training and enablement, learning and development. There's also sales training, other recruiting trainings. And it's like, what do you have? Things aren't always expensive either. Like if you've had to lay off 10% for less than one comp of a new hire, at least with our training, you could train everyone that you have left on your team to be excellent technical recruiters, start adding more value. Now you have a differentiation of the credentialing and the certification. That's one of the things that we're seeing. And then it's interesting too. So like in talking about adding value, so we also have to eat our own dog food and our own advice. And so what we've started offering as well, like this is us adapting to the market. We've also started offering a facilitated 6-week cohort, but it's like you meet for 45 minutes a week to review one class. The certification is 5 technical courses and 2 recruiting courses. So it's basically a course a week for 6 weeks, but it's hands-on. And then you have these remote team members who now get to interact once a week. And now we're building a library of additional follow-up questions and all those things. And that was not on the table 2 years ago. This is literally like 6 to 12 months in, because it's like, hey, what else can we do? And they're just like, we're feeling really overwhelmed. Okay, well, what can I do to help you with that? Do you want me to take the cohort? I can do your onboarding if you want that as like the structure. And people are jumping at it. So it was like, also having to think through what else can I give? I have a digital product, how can we do that a little more hands-on? And so that's gotten us to be more creative too. Yeah.
And I think, the third point, I think this is just where it all begins is around leadership.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not just leadership, but you talked about it's not managing, it's leading. And it's communicate. And, when those tough decisions are made, if you're not communicating properly, then you're going to have a team that's afraid, thinking, what's next? When is my turn? Right. And I don't know anybody who really does well, ups their performance when they're really being squeezed and under that pressure. And so for me, it's really about talking what the focus is, talking on what the vision is, talking about what we can control and what's out of our control, and making sure that our team, our people are focused on the things that they can control, because there's so much out of our control. But that takes leadership to talk about that, to explain it. You need that transparency, and transparency leads to trust. And so if in those tough times, leadership are not being transparent about where things stand and how they're going to get out of it and what the strategy and getting total team alignment, you could be losing some good people and scaring them away.
Yep. Well, and also by being so honest and so transparent, which is something I love the radical candor, direction that's come out in the last 4 or 5 years. And, leading up to recently, it's been very much all the cards are held close to the chest. Like you hear what you need to hear.
Right.
Whereas all of the data shows that authentic leaders who are also, not oversharing, but being open and saying, we need to be hitting these kind of revenue goals every month. And if we don't, we're going to have to start making contingency plans so that everyone's looking in the same direction, and then they know what's at stake. And then also it makes you a human being to them, right? Like that's not easy for you for us as leaders to be in this space. But if we bring them along on the ride and we're able to have these harder conversations, like eyes wide open, this is the scenario. We keep thinking we're hitting the floor, but it keeps bottoming out. Like who could have predicted 2 banks went under and generative AI would launch, all happen within a 2.5 month period. That wasn't on anyone's bingo card for this year, but it happened, right? And so by being more open with our team, we're being more human with them, which means they can feel like, they're part of the circle. They can have some more ideas. And it's then they feel like we're doing this together rather than I've got an idea, I need you to execute for it. And so being willing to have those harder conversations. And I will say too, I've been reading up on a few different things. Like when you have a passive leader who isn't just going to turn and face the situation, it's like a death sentence, honestly, right? Because as people start pulling off, they stop listening versus, if you have some problems and you're open about it and you talk about it, it's like, oh, then we're all in this together and we can all decide together. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to be flexible or try things. We all went through COVID together. It was like, what's happening? How can I adapt? Well, just kind of keep that mentality. And it's also just like, we're adults. We're all adults. You're hiring adults, hopefully. And so treat them like that and they'll reciprocate most of the time.
Good. Hey, we are, it's, I can't believe it. We're
already bumping up. I know.
It's crazy how quickly this conversation goes. And there's a lot of great stuff to unpack. I mean, just to kind of give my takeaway and what I'm hearing is, obviously when times are uncertain, you need to figure out what's working. You need to really look at the data. You need to understand it. You need to make those tough decisions, but do it in a way that has empathy. All right. Do it in a way that you're not going to be making enemies. And I think people do understand when they know what is expected and what needs to happen and why it's happening. It's not just helpful for the people that might have to be exited, but it also gives a peace of mind to the people that are still there, that they're working for organizations that care. Because if you just think you're the next person, they're probably going to be looking. And I still think in tough times, everybody's looking for great recruiters. So take care of the ones that you have. And really leadership is about guiding and communicating and being open, honest, and transparent. And I think investing in your people in these times and investing in them being better at what they do is so critical, and it's going to help so many people when things open back up like the floodgates, right? Don't forget it.
Well, and that's a very good point too, is like, we will come out of this, everybody. We know we will. What it looks like will be quite different, right? Because things are just going to be different, but the bounce back will happen, and you don't want to be like, on the heels of your feet. You want to say, okay, we've actually taken this time to concentrate, trim the fat, focus on what's working, get it humming. We're efficient now. And then it's like, okay, market's picked up. We're actually in better position than we would have been, right? Versus, and that's what a lot of the other people I talk to too, is like, now's not the time to be quiet. Now's the time to double down on what's working, get more market share. And then it's like off to the races when the inevitable pick back up happens. So awesome. Yeah, not the time for laurels, but do take your vacation. Nobody wants burnout.
Nobody likes burnout.
Definitely take this time to recharge too, because it's going to pick back up. No problem. That's for sure.
Well, Alison, it's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, Adam.
How can people reach you if they want to learn more about your training and development programs?
Yes. Oh my gosh, we would love to hear from you. Please visit our website at recruitinginnovation.com to learn more about our technical trainings. We actually have an awesome summer sale going on right now. Speaking of supporting our clients, like, we know times are tough, so let's meet you in the middle. So we have an awesome summer sale. So check out the website for that. Yeah, and then we also are on LinkedIn. So if you want to follow our Recruiting Innovation LinkedIn as well. And I love to hear from people directly. So feel free to email me, Alison, ALISON, at recruitinginnovation.com. And even if you have ideas or thoughts, like, I love networking. So holler, and I would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you sharing your insights with us, and you know how to get a hold of me if you need to reach me for anything. You can ping me on LinkedIn or Adam at Great Recruiters. And when you get all that training and development, Great Recruiters is an awesome way to help ensure that quality of service every day in every interaction. So yeah. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks to Great Recruiters for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks, LinkedIn community. Have a great rest of your week.